Um, the most important thing in the dividend theory are the three models which you must know, and I'll discuss them with you in a little bit of detail. And I hope you're getting the slides. All right. So before I start, I hope some things are very clear to you, which I made clear earlier in the class. Obviously, we did a lot of questions on cost of capital. That is, I hope you remember KE, KD, KP. All right. So KE was cost of equity, KP was cost of preference shares, KD was cost of debt, KO was WACC. I hope you remember, weighted average cost of capital. Overall, that is the overall cost of capital, that was QO. So what is important in these models are the two abbreviations, which are R and K. R is your rate of return which is available on the investments which you plan to do with the plowed back profit, and K is your required rate of return or the cost of capital that you have to pay back. All right. So Walters model, what does it say? The first one we'll take up is the Walters model or the Walters theory on dividend policy. It believes that the concept of dividend is very relevant in finding out the value of the firm or maximizing the shareholders' wealth. And James E. Walter, he also has propounded that the firms which pay a higher rate of dividend usually have higher value as compared to those who do not pay dividend or who pay a very low rate of dividend. All right. So he further says that he has this is also known as the relevant theory, and according to this theory, the dividend payout is related to R, that is the internal rate of return, which I discussed with you before starting this video, and K, which is the cost of capital and what impact it will have on the value of the firm. So see, there are three ways in which it can impact. All right. So if R is greater than K, that means the internal rate of return is greater than K, that is the cost of capital. So in this case, what you have to do, if R is greater than K, that means the internal rate of return is greater than the cost of capital, then that means that whatever investment opportunities are available with the firm, they should go ahead with it, and they should have 100% retention and 0% dividend payout. This usually happens in the growth oriented firms because they are still expanding and looking for expansion, and whatever profitable projects they have, they tend to pay more than if you are paying kind of dividend. All right. So if R is greater than K, then your decision criteria will be 100% retention and 0% dividend payout. If R is equal to K, then obviously this is indifference. It doesn't matter. And there will be no effect or the same effect whether how much you are paying out dividend or what you are retaining with the firm. And when K is greater than R, then what will happen? That you have to pay out dividend. You may consider paying out 100% dividend and 0% retention. That will maximize the value of the firm. And this is usually in the case of mature industries, those industries which are no longer having any growth prospects or not having a lot of avenues for profitable investments. So it is very important that you go through these points of the Walter model. Now see, he has some assumptions. The assumptions are important. Like I told you, it can come to you as a question. So the first assumption of this model is internal financing, which says that all the investments are financed by the firm through retained earnings. No new equity or debt is issued for the same. Another assumption that he has is constant IRR and cost of capital. The rate of return and the cost of capital are constant, and the business risks remain the same for all the business or the investment decisions. All right. And there are 2-3 more assumptions which they have: infinite life, 100% retention payout. All right. So one thing that is important for you to remember, that whatever assumptions are there in the model, the decision criteria of the model is dependent on those assumptions. And like you'll usually find that perfect markets are available. That means that the investors are completely aware of all the information. And like this another example, that risks remain the same. So this is just an assumption of the model. In the real life scenario, it may not hold true. And the deviations that we have from the results of the models is because of these assumptions not holding true on the real life. So if you have to follow the model, so you have to keep all the assumptions in mind. Like the first assumption, that only internal financing is available with you, so that has to be kept in mind. Next is the formula that he gave us. I hope you're getting the formula on the screen, where the market price of the share is being determined by the dividend per share and the earning per share and the internal rate of return and cost of capital. Alright, so this needs to be kept in mind when you are solving the numericals. Now see, growth firms are characterized by an internal rate of return is more than the cost of capital, which I just discussed with you. This slide I just discussed with you. When R is greater than K, when R is equal to K, and when K is greater to R. In these three scenarios, what the company should do? Growth firms are usually having optimum payout ratio as 0%, and retention they are doing 100%, whereas the mature firms are usually paying out 100% and keeping 0%. And as long as any normal firm is concerned, where R is equal to K, the dividend policy is not of much relevance in this scenario, and this you must explain. Alright, again, whenever a model is given, then there will be some because of the assumptions mainly, there are some limitations which the model will have, because again it has been developed not as per the real life scenario, but keeping in mind certain assumptions. So if those assumptions are not holding true, that can be kept as the criticism for the particular model. Though Walter's model has some unrealistic assumptions, it follows the concept that the dividend policy of a company has an effect on the market price of the share, and it also explains the impact in mathematical terms and finds the value of the share. Alright, so when you come to the relevant theories, so Walter model is one of the relevant theories of next dividend. When we come to is the Gordon's theory, and he also believed in the relevance of dividend. And it is also known as the bird in hand. Like I there's this famous saying which I told you, that one bird in hand is better than two in the bush, that there is a preference for current consumption. Alright, so that is known as the bird in hand theory, and it states that the current dividends are more important in determining the value of the firm. Gordon's model is one of the most popular mathematical models to calculate the market value of the company using its dividend policy. Myron Gordon is the name of the person, and explicitly relates the market value of the company to its dividend policy. What does the theory actually state? It states that the company's dividend payout ratio and policy are the relationship between its R and K, rate of return and cost of capital, and they influence the market price per share of the company. That has to be kept in mind. Now, if R is greater than K, then price per share decreases. If K is greater than R, then price per share increases. And if R is equal to K, then there is no change in the price. Now again, it has come up with certain assumptions that there is no debt, no external financing, constant IRR, constant cost of capital, constant retention rate, corporate taxes are not accounted for in this model, and perpetual earnings. Alright, so this has to be kept in mind, obviously, because if you do not make sure or learn the assumptions, then this model will not hold true. Now this is the numerical formula that we have. And the above model indicates that the market value of the company's price is the sum total of the present values of infinite future dividends to be declared. The Gordon's model can also be used to calculate the cost of equity if the market value is known and the future dividends can be forecasted. Then again, Gordon's model believes that it impacts the company in various scenarios. When IRR is greater than K, it benefits the shareholders more if reinvest the dividend than distributing it. Again, like I said, he's taking a step forward. What Walter's model was there, that when the internal rate of return on the profitable avenues is more, then the company, which will usually be a growth company, it will be better for the company to reinvest or plow back the profit that it is generating instead of paying out 100% dividend. All right. For again, when R equals to K, then the scenario doesn't leave much relevance for the dividend. And in the case of declining firms, what it can be done, that it is better to pay out 100% dividend, because that will only increase the market price of the share and also attract the investors to the company. Now again, the model is being criticized for the assumptions, because like I told you children before, that these assumptions do not hold true in the real world scenarios, but to make the model work, it is important for the the person who has come up with the theory to have these assumptions, because the model is based on these assumptions. So all the assumptions are being criticized. Now comes the most important one, and this is like the irrelevance of dividend. Now comes the most important one, which is known as the model, which says that the dividend policy is irrelevant, and the investors actually don't care whether you are plowing back the profits or you are giving out dividends, as long as their overall shareholder wealth is being maximized. Now, it is a major proponent of dividend irrelevance notion. According to this concept, investors do not pay any importance to the dividend history of a company, and thus dividends are irrelevant in calculating the valuation of the company. This theory is in direct contrast with the dividend relevance models which I just taught you, the Walter model and the Gordon model, which deems dividend to be important in the valuation of a company. Now see, this theory was proposed by Franco Modigliani and Merton Miller in 1961. They were the pioneers in suggesting that dividend and capital gains are equivalent when investors consider returns on investment. The only thing that impacts the valuation of a company is its earnings, which is a direct result of the company's investment policy and the future prospects. So, according to this theory, once the investment policy is known to the investor, he does not need any additional input on the dividend history of the company. The investment decision is thus dependent on the investment policy of the company and not on the dividend policy. Like they are outrightly just declining any kind of relevance that has been placed on the dividend policy. They are outrightly declining them and saying the investing decisions are the ones which attract the investors and not the dividend decisions, to which the investors are kind of it is the the investing decisions are important for the investors and not the dividend decisions. Theory goes a step further and illustrates the the practical situations where dividends are not relevant to the investors. Irrespective of whether a company pays a dividend or not, the investors are capable to make their own cash flows from the stocks depending on their need for cash. If the investor needs more money than the dividend he received, he can always sell a part of his investments to make up for the difference. Likewise, if an investor has no present cash requirement, then he can always reinvest the whatever dividend he has received in the stock, And thus the theory firmly states that the dividend policy of a company has no influence on the investment decisions of the investor. This theory also believes that dividends are irrelevant by the arbitrage argument. By this logic, the dividends distribution to the shareholders is offset by external financing. And always remember that just now we studied the Walter and the Gordon model, which have said that there is, in the assumptions, the first assumption what they have taken, that only internal funds are available for reinvestment and external financing is not available. So you see how they have just eliminated the entire thing in their model, and that is why there are so many criticisms also of that particular model of Walter and Gordon. While on the contrary, model, which is your Modigliani-Miller model, has taken into account the external financing that is available, and that is what they use in their arbitrage argument. Due to the distribution of the dividends, the price of the stock decreases and will nullify the gain made by the investors because of the dividends. Alright, so they have also spoken about how and what actions are going to make the decision of dividend irrelevant. And this theory also implies that the cost of debt is equal to the cost of equity, as the cost of capital is not affected by the leverage. Alright, so it has outrightly declined any kind of relevance of the dividend theory, and just go through this in detail, because model is very important and it often comes in the exam, because it is a little tough as compared to Walter and Gordon, a little bit tough, but if you know the theory well, if you learn whatever is given in that, then I'm sure it will help you. Now let's go to the assumptions of the model. Again, very important, that perfect capital markets are available. This theory believes in the existence of perfect capital market. It assumes that all the investors are rational and they have access to free information. There are no flotation or taxation costs and no large investor to influence the market price of the share. But does it hold up in reality? That is the question. So for now, all the theories that we have studied have assumed perfect capital markets, but perfect is the word. I think in reality it is far from perfect right now. Alright, so the next assumption is that no taxes. There is no existence of taxes. Alternatively, both dividends and capital gains are taxed at the same rate. Again, I hope you can see why the heading is written as assumptions, because in the real world I don't think that it is going to hold up. And the investment policy, the company does not change its existing investment policy. This means that new investments that are financed through retained earnings do not change the risk and the rate of required return of the firm. No risk of uncertainty. See what the relevance theory of dividends are emphasizing, that bird in hand concept, or one bird in hand is better than two in the bush. That means that they are emphasizing their need और रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ इमीडिएट डिविडेंड, दैट आज मिल जाए, मुझे आज पैसा मिल जाए हाथ में, अब कल पता नहीं मिलेगा कि नहीं, कंपनी डूब गई, कोई फ्रॉड हो गया, then what will happen? I don't want this promise of 2 years later you will get capital appreciation. I want my dividend today. So see, this model is outrightly rejecting it in its assumptions that no risk of uncertainty is there, and the markets are stable, there is perfect capital market, and everybody is getting back on their investments. And so he says that the decision of the dividend, whether to declare it or to reinvest it in the company or plow back the profit, is absolutely irrelevant to the investors and has no effect whatsoever on maximizing the value of the firms or having an influence on the shareholders at all. And that is why it is known as the irrelevance theory. Now, of course, he has come up with his assumption of the discount rate and the rate of return which is applicable. And this formula you must keep in mind. Now, what is the criticism? Children, see, I told you before I began this session that the criticisms are directly related to the assumptions. All right. So, obviously, if you are saying that there is perfect capital market, you are assuming in the model and carrying out your activities accordingly, and then it doesn't hold up in the real world scenario, then obviously the model will be criticized on those grounds. So, let us see the criticism of model, that perfect capital markets do not exist, firstly, like even I just told you a while back, and taxes are present, obviously. According to this theory, there is no difference between internal and external financing. However, if the flotation cost of new shares are considered, it is false. So, children, I hope that you have been studying financial management so that you know that every transaction involves cost. If you are going to issue an IPO, or you are going to issue extra equity shares or preference shares, it is going to involve a cost. You can't say that internal, if you are reinvesting profits and you are getting external financing, the cost is not there. Of course, this doesn't hold up. This assumption that there is no difference between internal and external financing is not good enough, because when you are going for external financing, then of course the flotation costs and transaction costs do arise. This theory believes that shareholders' wealth is not affected by dividend. Again, however, there are transaction costs associated with the selling of shares to make the cash inflows. This makes the investors prefer dividend. Alright, because like we said in the beginning, the investors are little risk averse. Alright, and they are following the bird in the hand concept mostly, that आज मिल जाए dividend, आज हमें कुछ investment मिल जाए. And like when I was the previous session that I discussed, that dividends are what? They are actually the reward to the shareholders for investing in this particular company, because they have thousands of options available on the stock exchanges. Why should they continue, and why should they be loyal with your company? Only if you offer them some return at the end of the financial period, or some participation in the growth, or some feeling of ownership, then only they'll consider. Because see, they are in the game for the long term gain, and short term, obviously money requirements are there for the investors. And the last one, the assumption of uncertainty is unrealistic. The dividends are relevant under certain conditions as well. Well, let us just move to the summary, that the model, or the theory of dividend policy, is an interesting and different approach to the valuation of shares, and it is a popular method which believes in the irrelevance of dividends. However, the policy suffers from various important limitations, and thus it is critical, and thus it is criticized regarding its assumptions. Because see, one thing is very important that you must keep in mind, and that is the debt equity. If you are going for external financing for any of the profitable investment avenues that you have, then what will happen is that will increase the risk for the investors. All right, the costs that are involved, the fixed costs or the variable costs, will rise. While on the contrary, if you are planning to invest your plowed back profit, or if you have retained some profit, retained earnings, then the cost is not there, and the burden is not there on the investors, the existing investors. The risk level of the firm stays the same, and that is a very important concept, and these are the considerations on which the relevance theories of dividend have come to front. All right, and the irrelevance is again based on its assumptions that there is no risk, that there is external financing available, taxes are there. So various kind of assumptions are governing the various theories that we have discussed, and the numericals are important here. At least 2 numericals you should do per model. Although the theory aspect is equally important, and you should go through the limitations, the advantages, the criticisms which are mentioned. Alright, with this I'll take your leave, and hopefully come back with another session on the numericals, or maybe working capital management or inventory management. What I need you to do is to send me your doubts, your queries, if you have any, that is. And even the first 2 units that we dealt with in the class, if you have any doubts in that, you can send it to me and I will resolve your queries. And all I'll say is that utilize this time for preparations of your exam, because they are just round the corner. And the moment the lockdown is over, decision regarding the schedule and the date sheet will be taken, and it will be shared with us. So I hope you had a good time in just knowing and going through the dividend policies. And I hope that I come back with more videos soon for you all. Bye guys.